When I was a teenager, a lot of weekends were spent over at Easington, which is a place near Sladeburn. My father was a member of the Burnley Aquatical Society, and there was a dig at Easington, and most weekends were spent there camping, and they had a Easington brook as it came through these fields, and I spent hours and hours either building dams or just messing around creating stone stacks there, I think, and that was many years ago. I'm Philippe. I'm a full-time artist and designer. I currently live in Ribble Valley, Simonstone. I've been here 4 years. Moved from Handford. Prior to that, Blackcore, but I guess fundamentally I'm Burnley Pendle, born and bred. I initially always enjoyed drawing and art all through O-level and A-level. I had the same art teacher as well, which was quite key, I think, to me actually pursuing my final career. I attended a summer art school at Burnley College when I was young, which introduced me to those facilities and lecturers there when I ultimately did an art foundation course at Burnley College. I discovered there was other aspects to being an artist. Until that point, I guess I assumed I'd do illustration or graphics. I enjoyed drawing. I'd always drawn, and particularly focusing on wildlife, drawing everything from a pet cat to wild animals. I just drew constantly. So I guess the natural progression would have been to be an illustrator. But during my year at Art Foundation course at Burnley College, we had a guest speaker who was an industrial designer. Never heard of that profession before. And he actually changed my view in terms of what I wanted to do, because it wasn't just about the drawing process. It was working on concepts, ideas, development, and ultimately making models. And I always enjoyed making things, so that seemed to embrace another interest of mine, because I'd also done A-level pottery. I then went on to do a multidisciplinary course at North Staffs, which really suited me. In the first term, we were able to try 3 or 4 different disciplines, and I chose glass blowing, screen printing, metalwork, product. But that sort of gave me a really good feel for other medium and other ways of approaching design solutions. And ultimately, I did choose product design, and that's the route that I took. When I first graduated, I initially became a freelance. I had a studio space in Burnley within the Weaver's Triangle, and I got a few good clients, the main one being the Prestige Group, and enjoyed quite a few years working with them on new concepts and also producing scale models for the marketing department, and that sort of honed my 3D making skills, which has come into more use in the latter years regarding doing sculpture. I ultimately accepted an offer to become an employee after being self-employed for a number of years, during which time I also had a year's consultancy association with an agency in Paris called Acme, which was my first taste of international designing. The first real job was to design reading spectacles for Essilor, which is the biggest spectacle manufacturer in France. It was a completely unique experience in terms of how to work, in terms of being part of a team. And on the first outing with this group, we were put up in a hotel on the north coast of France, Le Touquet, with the MD and the directors and the R&D department of Essilor. And for the first day or so, we just introduced ourselves through play. It was the most informal gathering I'd ever experienced until that stage. And we didn't seem to do anything relating to spectacles or glass design at all until the last day, when we literally were given all the materials we needed and the day in a hotel room to design anything that we could formulate and as outlandish as you wanted. And the results were actually incredible. And it was the first time that I was exposed to a different way of working and trying to think outside the box. And that experience put me in good stead in terms of if you can create a unique environment, the results can be quite staggering. I worked at the Prestige Group in Burnley for a couple of years, and then there was a management buyout, and I started working for a department which was the medical side, which was a new fledgling division of the Prestige Group, and I got on particularly well with the chief designer in that department, and I was fortunate to be part of a brand new project, which was to develop a stovetop sterilizer. Initially, they were working with WHO and UNICEF and was a glorified pressure cooker. And then I was employed to basically tart it up visually and create a product that looked more user-friendly and could be controlled electronically. And I ended up being part of the Prestige Medical Group for nigh on 16 years, designing all aspects of autoclaves and sterilizers, a whole suite of instruments. That took me to, as I said, about 2007, when I was laid off, and I decided that I would re-embrace my origins of actually trying to survive as a freelancer, and start working on projects that I felt as if were linked more with the environment and more craft-based. So I have a design background and way of working, but now I express myself in a more natural, organic way of working, inspired by local countryside and materials I find. When I first started looking at a sculpture or actually making things with natural materials, I started initially working on practical products that could be utilised in the garden or as the home, but actually utilising natural materials. During the winter months, it would go quiet, and I would invariably go on a long walk. And I got in the habit of actually creating what I call spontaneous natural sculptures. In other words, I would just choose a location that I felt inspired by. And if it had a range of natural materials lying around, I'd then put them together, whether in an abstract way or in a more figurative form. And other than actually creating stone stacks, which I got in the habit of doing over a period of time within rivers because of the availability of materials, I also found the rivers were a good place to actually sit and contemplate, and also to experiment with natural form. The art of doing a stone stack helps you with that's again a sense of materials. When you get a random large stone or pebble, and you find the centre of gravity, and you can balance it. It sort of brings you in tune with natural materials and your environment, as well as being a nice, quiet, tranquil location. I also managed to create temporary counterbalance pieces as well. I'd find a broken branch or a large twig that had been floating in the river, and actually balance it on a large boulder, and then add smaller pebbles either end of the driftwood. This initial experimentation was taking place really around Pendle Waters at the time, which runs between Barrowford and roughly. So I did a lot of work there, and I did build up quite a portfolio of images, because with all these natural pieces, they could last a few days, but ultimately they're ephemeral and they do disappear. So it relied on actually capturing the moment on camera, which is another of my hobbies and passions. I do like photography. When I first started doing a range of products that I could do myself, which was benches, seating, I linked my experience as a product designer and that's the contacts I'd made in the industry to actually source possible materials. Ultimately, if there was scrap, that was the idea, to try to create a unique range of products, but from other people's scrap. But ultimately, I ended up on a far more practical solution and decided to create a new range of outdoor seating, inspired by gabions. It's a cage arrangement where they're filled with stones, and you see them at the embankments of motorways. And I initially played with this idea. It would have been around 2007 to 2008 on beaches that had pebbles, and I'd actually mocked up some unusual cage shapes, and then I filled them with the pebbles. And ultimately, I was going to use driftwood, but that proved to be difficult to actually find at the appropriate time. And the first unusual bench that I constructed was with an old surfboard that was counterlevered by the largest basket full of pebbles. And visually, it was actually quite a powerful photograph, probably because of the location, and also looked quite dramatic because of this quite large, long board. It just seemed to be floating. And that was my first foray into working with, pebbles or stones. That's combining metalwork with natural material. So I decided to work on a far more practical solution and come up with a design for a garden bench using the same principle. And that then took me on a different path, really. And I also discovered recycled plastic, which proved to be quite complementary in terms of offering an outdoor seating solution that was maintenance-free. And that's what started me on the path of also offering outdoor furniture, as well as experimenting with natural sculptures. I've done several memorial benches for fishermen around the area, and I've had bench installations around quite a few local reservoirs. But I also did a commission for a fisherman, a garden sculpture in stainless steel, and I made a whole series of fish-shaped pieces that were linked by a heavy gauge bent wire. So it gave the illusion of actually swimming upstream. Most other items are actually bench linked, where I've actually claimed the stone from Riverbanks to include within a bench design that then feels as if it is part of the environment, because it has elements of the local materials in it. But I guess the aspect with the rivers and the area is actually it's just a constant draw on inspiration. There's one particular location where I've actually photographed prototype products, and again, it's a brook. It's down near to the big end, actually, of Pendle, on the road between Barley and Downham. I think it's called Pendle Hill End Bridge down the bottom. But there's a brook, a personal road that comes off Pendle, and it has a few flat stone platforms, in fact, to the sides of this river, where you can actually rest a product and take a photo of it. But what really makes that location is the Pendle Hill backdrop, and it's such a quiet spot as well. And you can actually look over towards Poynton Fell in the other direction. So I guess that's another river linked inspired location that I'm actually drawn to on a regular basis. An uncle, I guess, was a big influence on me. He was an architect. He would actually sketch and draw when he visited, and I was always mesmerised by this incredible skill and also the imagination. So from a very young age, I was very fortunate to be exposed to this very talented individual and a very nice person. I think I mentioned earlier that at school I had the same art teacher from day one at senior school right through to sixth form doing my A-levels. And he sadly passed away earlier this year. And I was so pleased that I did manage to actually catch up with him last autumn and spend a bit of time with him, because he was huge influence. He was quite an aspirational teacher. He was very different from all other teachers that I had at school in the way he dressed and the way he interacted with his pupils. He, if I ever had any doubt, actually having an artistic talent, he would definitely put you right. He was very, very encouraging. He was also the first person to ever ask to invite me to speak about my career. He tracked me down and wanted me to give a talk to his pupils on what it was like to be a product designer. And it was a real ego boost, but I also understood the importance of actually passing on your experiences and the message, because, as I said previously, I recall it was a turning point for myself at Burnley College, our foundation course, when this industrial designer came in to give a talk. You can't underestimate where an external influence may come from. So he was always very, very encouraging, but also he was also very proud of what I'd done as one of his pupils, and that has always kept with me. And I'm not alone. I've got other friends from school who also took the same route, and he had the same impact on them as well. I've got two different hats, really. I've got that of a designer, because that's what my degree is, in product design. And then I have one as an artist now. I guess my influences as a designer were the likes of Kenneth Grange, who wants to design so many well-known everyday products. I think everything from Daniel Poy's lamp to cameras and trains and Kenwood mixer. So, as a product designer and aesthetics and ergonomics, he was a big influence. Beyond that, there's also Philippe, the French designer, who has proved to be very versatile in the range of products he actually works on. I've also taken similar routes in that I've never ever pigeonholed myself to any type of product or any medium. As long as I feel as if I've got some creative influence and there is some artistic development involved, I've worked on a wide range of products, from obviously domestic products to the prestige group, but I've also done jewellery design. I've even done sound writing. I've also designed a range of pots, cutlery, anything that involves a design process. I'm quite happy to be working on, but I do tend to keep things simple. I don't believe in the elaborate or the inclusion of extra features or actually too much ornamentation. I do love simple designs, and they are the hardest to achieve. So I do strive for simple lines, simple forms, which also echoes on to my work now with nature. I still maintain those same criteria. As a designer, whilst I was working for the Prestige Medical Group, I was nominated for the Prince Philippe Designers Prize in 2000. I'd been working on a smaller steriliser product specifically for the dental market, and it was quite a revolutionary looking product at the time, and the only one dedicated to dental handpieces. The nomination has required me attending a gathering at the Design Council in London with an audience with Prince Philip himself. Some of the other nominees that year included the design team of the McLaren, the couple who designed the London Eye, Ives with the Apple, Cameron who designed hot air balloons, another furniture designer, and me. It was actually the hot air balloon designer that actually won that year, but it was quite exciting time, and to mingle with some really big names in the design world. And that was only really topped by a few years later, to mark 10 years of this award, that as I was a previous nominee, I was invited to Buckingham Palace, where I got a chance to meet and chat to the likes of Hemingway and Jeff Bank and Dyson. So it was quite an exciting time and a great highlight. In terms of working as an artist, environmental artist, sculptor, been able to a large scale install on Pendle Hill, endeavour to be one, but I guess it's a huge achievement on scale alone. I'd never attempted or even experimented with anything like this previously. It's only because I was really determined to actually do something on the hill, which I thought about in previous years. Never permanent, but as an artist, had to make a mark. It was sort of the biggest canvas in the area. So when the opportunity arose to mark the 400th anniversary of the Pendle Witches trial, this ambition was realised. And I have actually conducted 3 other installs on the hill since, but as the 1612 was the first one, that will always be a cherished achievement in my eyes. They're both actually a physical achievement, and also experiencing a wide mixed emotions of the public response was also an eye opener. In the same year, I started the first series of natural sculptures at Aking Wood, which is now the Pendle Sculpture Trail, which I got to know quite well through doing the 1612 install on Pendle Hill, because it was the best vantage point, square on to the hill itself at elevation, for me to get my head around how to go about putting these huge numbers and having them square and actually looking right, perspective-wise. The install on the hill and also the Pendle Sculpture Trail have been hugely beneficial in terms of launching me as an artist, as a sculptor. And I guess the most exciting location I've worked on through that has been doing an install, a permanent one, in Moscow. It's a place called The Village, where there's quite a few rich oligarchs live. And I got, through the wonders of the World Wide Web and posting images of my creations on the sculpture trail, I was invited to create several pieces in the grounds of a very large house just outside Moscow. And that was, I guess, up to date, has been the most exciting job opportunity destination. And I also ended up going over 3 times in that year, which was 2014. And I also experienced it at different weathers. The first time was in the first week of March. It was cold. I think I was the only foolish person around who didn't wear a hat. As I come from the north of England, I didn't think a hat was needed, but they are in those places. I then experienced the spring, which was very pleasant, and then I did the major installs in July, and it was unbearably hot. So a huge continent with actually challenging weather conditions. Well, this year it started well. 2 exciting projects with the River Truss. One was designing and installing a series of photography points. Invited you to take an image on your mobile phone at particular locations and then share them online. And there was 4 locations around Lancashire. And also install our first bench over at Whitton Park. I also had a couple of interesting garden projects for private clients. But as with everything else at the moment, it's on hold. So in terms of how this year panning out and where it's going to lead, it hasn't impeded my creative process because I manage a daily walk. I'm actually very fortunate. I can head through the field to the back of the house and through woodland and not encounter many people. And because it is actually much quieter, I'm actually getting a lot of great nature shots. And also, I've actually started some little projects of my own from this particular hawthorn tree with a backdrop up Pendle Hill, from the Stadman side, that is, that I'm actually photographing every week from the same spot and seeing how that fills out and changes and responds to the environment, as well as doing a bit of spontaneous land art and finding natural pieces of material that I carry back, that I use for inspiration, or on little projects which I have no problem being actually motivated to do. I enjoy working on ideas, and it is an opportunity to actually try out concepts and different thought tracks, which during a normal busy year you find it's actually hard to find time to actually devote attention to. But this has been the opportunity, so I have embraced that aspect of it. I guess it's just the lack of being able to actually travel further afield is the biggest change at the moment. So the year will obviously take a different route, but in terms of a creative process, it's most of an exciting one, because I'm going to end up with a body of work now which has been forced through a change of circumstances, and also very lucky that the weather has allowed for outside exploration. And at the moment, I'm thinking that I can possibly have an exhibition of work which has been initiated by these current circumstances. As strange as they are, it does offer different opportunities. So it's trying to look on the positive side. It'll have hopefully a different but exciting outcome.
Our Talking Rivers series of audio productions has been brought to you by Ribble Rivers Trust as part of the Ribble Life Together project. It celebrates the rich cultural, social and natural heritage of the Ribble Catchment. Creating the series has been made possible by National Lottery players through the Heritage Fund. For more episodes and information, visit ribblelifetogether.org.